good morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities and everybody watching online. I'm Chris Burdick, that's Sparky, and this is the Early Bird Special on this Motivation Monday. Sparky!
Good morning.
Good morning, my friend.
Happy
Tell them what
Monday.
they got, my guy.
We got everything. I mean, this was a busy weekend. We'll talk about Ovi breaking Gretzky's goal king record. We'll talk NCAA women's basketball. UConn taking the title. We'll preview the NCAA men's championship that's later tonight right here on ESPN Bakersfield. We'll talk NBA updated with the NBA standings. We'll talk baseball, and then we'll wrap up. The only way we can is with wrestling.
Absolutely. Of course. I mean, what other way to end your Monday than giving you a little bit of a rundown of what you can expect tonight on Raw? And I watched all of AEW's Dynasty last night live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so you didn't have to.
Thank you for
yes, that. I will let you know what happened last night in AEW as well if we have enough time. A lot happened, including the return of our guy, our friend of the show, Anthony Bowens. The pride of pro wrestling is back, baby. He is back in AEW as he quickly made work of his former tag team partner, Max Caster, last night. Let me get a little bit of feedback there for a second. It's all good. But there's much more and much more important things to talk about, including the NHL having a new greatest scorer of all time. Let's hear it, Spark.
I'm getting feedback from the video.
Why are we getting feedback from the video?
Try to force it to him if he's open. Here is Ovechkin. Shoots. He scores! He scores! Number 895!
So Ovi scored that goal, 895 Sunday, passing Hall of Famer Wayne Gretzky to become the NHL's all-time goal-scoring leader.
Now, for those of you who are not hockey fans, the easiest way to explain this is probably the equivalent of Barry Bonds breaking Hank Aaron's records of home runs and LeBron James eventually topping Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at his points. Now, Ovi has been going for 20 years, has plenty left in the tank most likely, although I do argue that this could potentially be the greatest retirement run of all time. If Ovi does decide to hang it up after this year at the age of 39, the Capitals are number one in the East right now in the NHL, probably look to be the favorites to win the President's Cup
I would hope so.
As the whole dang shebang.
I would hope so.
But
do you think that might tinker the decision of retirement? I mean, I hope he hits 900.
No, and that's the question I'm going to pose as well. Is they have 5 games left. Ovi is sitting at 895 goals in his career. This is career goals for those of you who are wondering. This is not in the season. That'd be absolutely absurd. 895 goals. Just to let you know, Gretzky broke this record, which was originally owned by Gordie Howe back in 1994. Mr. Hockey. Back in 1994. Gordie had about, I think, 801 total goals at the time. So Gretzky hitting his 802nd against Vancouver. You know, the sports world is weird that way. It all cycles back in one giant historical loop. But Gretzky was in attendance, obviously said that he was ecstatic for Alex, said that it was really felt like a goal for him as well, something that he could celebrate, which you'd love to see when these greats just accept it and love that somebody is there to break their record. But that's the question I'm going to pose to you, my friend. If Ovi hits 900, I'm going to say right now he hits 900 by the end of the season. You got 5 games to do it, a goal a game, which he's been doing all year long, even with a broken leg. What do you think this is even close to being breakable for anybody if he does reach 900, Sparky?
Oh, no.
Not even close?
I didn't think Gretzky was going to get broke. So, I mean,
looking at it, the season is right around the corner, but
I mean, we could probably do some research and see who's anywhere close of a current player that's playing.
Funny thing you say that.
You do know that.
I do know that.
Good job.
And you know what's funny about this? Now, 2 of them play very closely to the Bakersfield Condors, and I'll tell you why. That would be Connor McDavid and Draisaitl of the Oilers. Obviously, the affiliate of the NHL to our Bakersfield Condors here in Bakersfield, California. Unfortunately, neither Draisaitl nor McDavid would ever play for the Condors because they are far too good and came in as just massive players. I won't call them prodigies because I'm not 100% sure if they have that in hockey. But these guys score about half a goal a game in their career so far. Okay, and then there's one more. Boston has a guy, David Pasternak, I apologize, at about 5.2. These are the closest guys that could potentially even touch this record. But even then, you have to take into account Ovi did this in a 20-year span. In the same amount of games, mind you, that Wayne Gretzky
which is
needed
crazy.
to reach the exact same number.
And not only that, was against the same team.
It was against the exact same team. Again, sports is weird that way. It's all one giant loop. But I don't think they reached this number because you have to take into effect, as well as, like I said, longevity, injury history, how well they play throughout the rest of their career. Draisaitl and McDavid obviously play on the same team, so unless they continue to score a goal a game with each other, which is even more difficult in the game of hockey. It's not like basketball where you can score every time someone that touches the ball or the puck in this instance. Hockey is a very, very tough game to score. It continuously gets tougher every year to score, and I don't think anybody even sniffs 900 outside of Alexander Ovechkin.
Unless they come out with the torpedo stick.
At some point, which they've already made jokes about as well. I thought that was fantastic. I don't know, I can't remember whose broadcasting team that was. That might have been just the NHL national broadcasting team, but they did make jokes about that at the expense of baseball. However, they're just continuing to show their studs are studs. And just because it is Motivation Monday for all of you Shoresy fans out there, you will be starting your Monday with a great, great pep talk from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Shoresy, out in the Northern Ontario Hockey League, or the No Show.
Well, speaking of the man, let's hear Ovi post-game talking about breaking that record.
Yeah, finally, I'm not going to have those questions when you think you're going to break it. It's already done. So try to figure out what's the next question is going to be. But yeah, I think for me and for all the boys, you know, how I say, it's fun time. You know, it's you can see how many people travel from all over the world to see that moment. You know, yeah, it's special.
It has to be just lifting as well. The stress that has been on this man throughout this entire season, like I said, coming back from a broken leg to just compete and be a part of the season, let alone compete for this record, has to have been just stressful for Alex. Again, a 39-year-old man from Russia, absolutely tore up the league throughout his entire career. I've said this a million times since last week. The easiest comparison for you sports fans out there who don't watch hockey, Alexander Ovechkin's probably the closest thing to Kobe in the NHL that you'll probably find, and rightfully so. Obviously, we all know Kobe Bryant was probably one of the greatest scorers of the basketball of all time, so the parallels are there even more now. But at this point in his career, Alexander could hang it up if he wanted to, especially if they walk away with the Stanley this year and absolutely walk out probably one of the greatest hockey players of all time. And I say probably very loosely because it's hard to argue that he isn't. And, you know, you got guys like Gretzky who are at his games celebrating this type of thing. This is what other sports need, though, Sparky, in my opinion. They need the stars like this because obviously we saw it last year with Saquon Barkley potentially breaking the rushing record. And the guys who held the record beforehand, Dickerson, did not want him to do it.
Of course.
He didn't want the record broken.
Well, one thing I will back Dickerson is that, you know, everyone brought up the amount of games when the records were broke and
True.
blah, 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 blah. And Dickerson was one that stood up and said, well, you know, my first year was breaking a record of a shorter season.
Okay, but
So
I argue
he did
this.
give props to Saquon.
No, absolutely. And for those of you who sit there and say that and use that as an excuse, Saquon did it in less touches.
Yep.
Explain that.
It's a different type of league, though.
And it's not just, oh, yeah, he had like 20 more touches than Saquon. No. Dickerson did it with 300 carries. Saquon did it in about 220. I now, give or take, I'm probably way off on the statistics for Saquon. But it is a considerable amount of carries that are different. But my point is, we need legends to be okay with their stuff getting broken. It's not that big of a deal. That's what sports are all about, is competition and somebody coming after you that is potentially better than the way you were and can leave the game better than the way you left it at the same time.
Let the damn game evolve.
Exactly. And if you don't allow that kind of play, it's going to ruin the entire thing for everybody else. So I personally don't understand why people are so up in arms about the records getting broken. Like, I get it, it's a topic of pride for you, obviously being the guy that owns that record, but it's okay being second and owning the record for 20 years.
Right.
Like,
At least you're up there in the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's still going to talk about you. You really think people are going to stop talking about Wayne Gretzky because Ovechkin broke his record? Not even close. He's still the great one. And again, we've said this a million times too, and you hear it in every sports show that talks about hockey. You take away Gretzky's 895 goals that he had scored at that time, he still has more points than anybody in the league's history.
Yeah,
and it's not even close.
For miles.
Yes, it's not even close.
That is a record that probably won't be broken, but
so maybe he has a little bit more leeway to be, kind of okay with it, I guess, in a way. But I still just don't get why certain legends can't stand their records being broken.
Just that it goes back to that GOAT discussion that every sports fan wants to bicker or argue over.
True.
And with the keyboard right in front of everybody, everybody's a badass.
And everybody can speak their mind on social media and stuff, which it helps, but it also hurts society. I won't lie on that one. But you're right. I mean, at this point, with Wayne Gretzky, everybody knows he's the greatest of all time. So maybe that's why he doesn't have to necessarily have a prideful hurt of his record being broken. But I just think more legends need to adopt that kind of mindset.
I was telling my wife, this is the time that you want to sell this autographed Gretzky.
Absolutely.
Jersey she has.
Anything Gretzky you own right now, if you're even thinking about getting rid of it, you should already be having it on eBay or something. Because
prices are peaking now and until
Ovechkin stuff too. Don't think that's out of the question.
Would be the one.
Any signed Ovechkin jersey or something you have that you don't want to hold on to and you need some money, sell.
You might want to wait a couple days to see if he gets close to that 900.
Oh, 100%, dude. And I'm telling you right now, he's gonna break 900 because he's coming back next year. I know we're sitting here talking about how this could be the greatest retirement run. I doubt he retires. This guy is on fire at 39 years old. He's great for the sport.
Yeah, NHL is going to push him to stay.
And imagine he hits 950. You know what I mean? Like we got a 25-minute celebration last night of him breaking 895, which is insane. But at the same time,
we understood.
It's one of those records that you didn't think would ever be touched.
And does this one get touched?
Not if he reaches over 900. Ain't no way. There's not going to be, unless you have a LeBron James-esque run where you play 25 years in the show, you aren't sniffing 900. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Ovi's not done. He's coming back next year for his 40th or his year 40 of life, or year 21 of career.
Yeah,
he's going to break 900 and something record.
He might break it before the end of the season.
It's going to happen. Honestly, I think he reaches 900 by the end of the year, if not 899. He's going to score at least 3-4 more goals in these last 5 games. So it's going to be close.
Well, you're listening to the Early Bird Special. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, which you can watch the video stream Monday through Friday live from 7 to 9 a.m. Pacific on the Early Bird Special YouTube. We will talk UConn women's
their
12th title.
Gino is just, we have to talk about that too. Gino might be the greatest women's basketball coach of all time.
And we'll also have to preview this Houston, Florida game tonight.
That nobody saw coming except for our boy Bolt Brady, apparently. And you.
Yes.
You were the only person I knew that actually took Houston for the entire thing.
I was pulling what little hairs I have left out. That game was insane. But we will talk NCAA after this break. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Yeah, welcome back to the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We had an NCAA women's basketball final for you last night. UConn took on the Southern Carolina Gamecocks. You calling that?
Yes.
Okay. Head coach Gino Auriemma arguably names himself the greatest women's basketball coach of all time as UConn wins their historic 12th championship in program history, beating the Gamecocks with a final of, 82-59.
Blowout.
Absolute blowout. There was nowhere close. And I feel so bad for Dawn Staley because she's so awesome. She really is. Like, she's one of my favorite coaches just to watch her go. And you could see the frustration mounting on her face just because her girls could not get anything to work. And it really just sucks to see that. But when you go up against a team like UConn, it's hard to beat, man.
So we went to the Well Friday night, and we stopped by to get something to eat. And I was checking the scores, and I saw UConn was blowing that one out. And I was talking to one of the servers, and he was saying that he had a UConn shirt on. So I was asking him, is he a men's or is he actually wearing that for the women's game? He said, "Oh, of course, it's women's."
Oh yeah, the women's are the women's are the pride of the program, man. I mean,
So
the men have their moments, but the women are the one who dominate.
The 12th title after a 9-year wait. And I mean, I'll go to the Nat sound, but I mean, really, it was just a blowout from the start.
And there's the buzzer. It's an even dozen for Gino Auriemma and Connecticut. The final page in the book of Beckers is title number 12 for UConn.
And Paige Beckers gets her first title in her entire career there, 4 years, obviously, because I believe the women's side, it's required for you to stay until you finish your senior year. I don't think they're allowed to leave until they go all 4 years. Paige had a career of 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and 2 steals.
And it was expected to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft
next year. The year coming up. I'm not sure who owns that one though.
It's
I'm not following.
I know it's coming up here on that 14th of April. But this is Paige after the game.
It's been a story of resilience, of gratitude, of adversity, of overcoming adversity, and just responding to life's challenges and trying to fuel them to make me a better person, a better player, and continue to grow in my leadership abilities and being a great teammate and just staying who I am, standing firm in who I am and believing in what we do here as individuals, what we do here as a team, and just a overwhelming sense of gratitude for everything that's happened through the ups and downs. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
She is a fantastic player. And don't forget, Paige is the one who unfortunately tore her ACL back when she was a sophomore, when they had a really, really historic run and almost won their first, or almost was able to win her first chip back then, but has since bounced back and led this UConn team against the 3 top seeded teams. Now, granted, USC did not have their best player in Juju Watkins, who won, I believe, dang near every award this year for the female side of everything. But Paige in herself is a fantastic athlete. Well, as Sparky said, will most likely be the number 1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. There are 4 players from both teams that will be leaving, including South Carolina's top scoring guard, Tihina Pauapau, I believe is how you say her last name. I apologize if I'm butchering that.
It is going to Dallas.
It's going to Dallas.
Is the first pick.
Okay, so she will not be meeting up with Caitlin Clark or any of the.
How awesome would that be?
Well, eventually we could see that, but at this point right now, I think Paige has the skill to be a star in her own right at the league or in the league. How well she carries over her game will be up in the air because she does have a history of knee injuries, unfortunately. But I mean, with the WNBA gaining so much star power every single year, Juju Watkins will be there in 2 years. It's only looking up for them, which means more money, which means these players are actually going to get paid what they want to get paid in comparison to guys in the NBA. Now, you're not going to be getting the $100 million deals right away, unfortunately. But from the way it looks right now with gals like Paige coming in, it's just going to make the league better.
And the Huskies' 23-point victory was the 3rd largest in championship game history. And the other 2 previous, UConn.
Of course. Well, again, and don't shy on the Gamecocks here. Obviously, Staley has won 3 chips in her tenure there already. 2017, 2022, and I believe last year. They were looking to go back to back this year, and she'll be back. I mean, Staley is a stud. Gino is a stud. All of these teams will be back in the competition next year, regardless of how many of the women will be leaving. They'll just be looking to reload. That's all it is. Now, UConn is in a different spot, I believe, than South Carolina, because South Carolina has a couple older players that will still be there in terms of leadership roles. UConn will be looking for a new leader starting next year with Paige Bucher leaving. So it's kind of a different situation. But at this point right now, UConn obviously sitting atop of the standings. Or actually, no, they're not atop of the standings. I shouldn't even say that, because I believe they're third now in the way too early polls that got released yesterday after the game. But looking to reload for next year. Gino could be looking for title number 13. God only knows.
Yeah, congratulations. After this break, we will talk NCAA men's. We'll preview tonight's game. Plus, we'll talk about the upset.
The collapse of Duke.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you, Bolt Brady. Hopefully he's as happy as I am going into the game tonight. During the break, I'm going to check the over and under, and text in how is your bracket? Did you take Houston? Do you have Florida? I do have a coworker over at MoneyWise that has Florida. He went with the route as I did, is not going with the crowd taking Duke. So we have 3 people above us, which all have Auburn. So we're going to leapfrog. So it's really going to come up to me and my buddy Seth. He's got Florida. I've got Houston. Text in your brackets, call or text in 661-842-2000. This is the early bird special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Kendrick.
Mix it up a little bit.
I was not expecting this one at all. At all. Not even not like that. I'm not complaining at all. Welcome to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. That's Kendrick Lamar. Yes. One of the greatest rappers of all time.
Which is
right?
also going to be performing at the Olympics.
Absolutely. And he's
guy's
just taking
making-
over the world at this
making
point.
money.
Isn't he? And you know what's funny? Drake just dropped new music and it's back to being at the top of the charts. So people clearly don't care that much.
No,
they really
don't.
don't. And honestly, after everything at the Super Bowl, all I was hearing was support for Drake. Actually, they said they took it too far. So I was like, wow, actually, people have some or not integrity. That's not the right word.
No, that is the opposite.
Yeah, it's the actual opposite of what I'm trying to say. They have some compassion for Drake. Let's say that one. Let's move over to the men's side real quick, Sparky. Obviously, starting on Saturday's games, you had Duke and Houston headed off, or just start. No, I'm sorry, that was the second game. Florida and Auburn started the entire situation. Both games ended in absolute pandemonium, as March Madness should. However, it started with Duke star Cooper Flagg winning the National Player of the Year for the men's side of everything. And here's what Cooper had to say about winning said award.
I mean, it's a surreal feeling. I think this whole tournament process so far has been kind of surreal for me. I mean, these are the moments you dream about as a little kid. You know, this is the biggest stage of college basketball. So, I mean, I'm just trying to cherish these moments with my teammates that we have left. I mean, the road ends here. So, I mean, just enjoying the last moments we have together, and this whole process has been a really surreal time.
He's awesome. This kid's fantastic. I can't wait to see him in the pros. I mean, he's got a humble mindset to him, and he plays out of his mind every single game. And I can't wait to see how that transitions to the pros. Let's start with that. But number two,
I'm not a fan.
I'm sure, and I'll let you get into this in a second. Let's hear the second part of this bite, though, because this is pivotal to me and into what my point is going to be.
I mean, I don't know how many people enjoy or love doing media. So I think for me, it's, just staying present, staying grounded, enjoying the moments with my teammates, being a kid still, goofing off, having fun, just enjoying the moments, just staying and being a kid in these moments rather than thinking about the media or what's going on outside of the circle and the team that I'm here with.
Which you should actually absolutely do at his age. Just to remind you guys, he technically should be a senior in high school right now. He skipped a year to come play for Duke.
How do you do that?
I can't.
Yeah, I mean, did he take the equivalent test?
I think so,
Okay.
but again, I
I
can't
was
even
wondering.
begin
I
to
almost
explain
texted you during that game. We had a group of people watching the game with us, and
everybody was wondering how that works
and
out.
everyone was going Duke. But then the announcer said, "And then this guy should be a senior in high school."
Well, technically, both of them should. Both freshmen should. I believe the center as well is supposed to be a senior in high school. But again, I don't know exactly the parameters in which they had to go through in order to make that work and get them on the team. But the fact still remains, Cooper's a year younger than your usual freshman. He's 18 years old, turning 19, not 19, turning 20. And I point this out I played that audio to ask you this question, my friend, because I have this issue with a lot of the sports organizations that do this, including NCAA football, who does this with the Heisman. Should we wait to give those out until after championship games? Because the whole point to what Cooper is pointing out is that he's trying not to let all of the hype of the media and all of that stuff go to his head before this major game for Houston, in which Houston won by 3 points and Cooper missed the game-tying, game-winning field goal. Or, sorry, shot. I shouldn't call it a field goal. It's not football.
And he had it.
He had it. And this is why I say this. Is it too much? I don't want to say pressure and attention, but distraction for these young athletes to win an award as big as this, be called the AP Player of the Year right before essentially the biggest game of your career, and pile on all of this stress?
I mean, not only just the age of this kid, but I think in all sports,
right?
They should put back all the awards, do the award show or do the award special post the season.
It just makes sense to me because it's the same thing with the Heisman. The Heisman should be at the very end of the year. Now, granted, yes, everybody's just going to say, well, if you're going to do that, you should make the MVP of the championship game the Heisman Award. I guess, but not every year does the best player in college football make it to the championship game.
Exactly.
It granted, a good chance you have if, as in my Yoda speak, if you have the Heisman that you're going to make it all the way to the end. But what point do you sit there and say, okay, Will Howard of Ohio State was a better quarterback than the Heisman winner this year? He wasn't at all. But Ohio State had the best chances to make the national championship
course.
game. Does
They've
that make
taken
him? Does that make him the Heisman? No.
It's the same thing when in the NFL with
Right,
the MVP,
with the MVP.
race and blah 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 blah, and they do it in the middle of the playoffs.
And that's another argument that I have, especially with one and done games in the NBA playoffs. As we've seen, most of the time the MVP does not make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, then I'll flip that question into: does that tarnish the player that, you know, like a Lamar Jackson or, you know, this year's Saquon? You know, if they wouldn't have made the Super Bowl and was knocked out, which they almost did, say they lose to the Rams and they don't make the Super Bowl, does that tarnish his chances or his odds of winning the MVP?
I'd say no. You could still base it around what they did in the regular season, because that's what the MVP is. The MVP is a regular season award. It's not a postseason award.
I mean, just like Cooper getting this title,
right?
Say they would have waited a week
and waited till all of this was done.
This loss to Houston would have changed the odds? I don't think so, because obviously he was up there past a lot of people.
But who's to say the added stress didn't make him play worse?
Yeah, and who's to say that he would have got it if it would have been post after the loss against Houston?
And that's a good point too. But that's kind of where you have to, toe that line. Is it going to be a regular season award, or is this a postseason award? Are you really planning to give the AP Player of the Year award in NCAA basketball to a kid who wasn't in the March Madness tournament? No. I venture to say no. If your team is not in the March Madness tournament, sorry, kid, you're probably not even in the consideration, let alone in the talks. And I mean, there were other guys that could have gotten this award too. I mean, you look at Florida's stud, I believe, Clayton Jr., who's been scoring 30 points a game for the last couple games. First person to do that since Larry Bird in Indiana State, by the way. And they made it to the championship game. So should he have more of a consideration for the AP Player of the Year poll? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the end of the year, he looked way better than Cooper did. And that's not saying Cooper looked bad, but he looked better. So who deserved it more? And that's why I'm saying you should really wait till the end of the year, at least in basketball, to give the MVP or the AP Player of the Year award. I feel like that is more touch. Because I also, if you want to go to the women's side of this, as big of a fan of Juju Watkins as I am, and arguably USC could have made it to the championship game over UConn had Juju played against UConn. But she got the same treatment Cooper Flagg did this year and got every AP poll award.
Yeah.
Did she deserve it, or was that more of an injury thing where they were like, they felt bad because she was the star of the entire tournament?
I thought for sure she wasn't going to get it.
I didn't think she was either because she got hurt, but they gave it to her anyway. So it's like, that's kind of the arguments that people have against it is, well, what are you basing the criteria on? So if this is a regular season award like the MVP, then give it out before the March Madness tournament. But if we're qualifying what they do in the tournament, you have to do it after the tournament's over.
Or just have a separate award for the tournament.
That's possible too.
In a season one.
But then again, you could have, that would mean like the Jimmer Fredette's and all that stuff would potentially be winning that, because every year you have one guy or a girl in the tournament that just shows out.
Well, a big shout out to Bolt Brady, who joined us Friday.
Absolutely.
He's our handicapper. And, I was starting to get nervous because I didn't watch too much of, I watched the second half of the Auburn, Florida game, which I had 50 texts, saying these refs.
And again, as we said last week, this is why you need to put your refs on blast and have these types of situations like the NFL is doing, and have your people just check everything.
Now with Houston and Duke, now that game was, Duke up by 12-13 and then going back and forth. And then Duke got into this slump in the second half where they didn't score anything in 10 plus minutes. And now everything is on the line tonight, 5:50 p.m. I believe pregame, my buddy JR was just telling me pregame starts at 3 p.m. right after the Money Wise show.
Fantastic.
So you'll listen to it right here on ESPN Bakersfield. But I'm looking at the over under. They got Houston in a point and a half.
Yep. I believe that's how it was.
I would jump on that. Bolt had Houston with 3.5 on Friday, which he said to jump on. And I was starting to get nervous, when there was, 5 minutes left and they were down 8, 9 points. But man, that game was insane. And not only this, but the Gators are looking for their first national championship since they're back-to-back in 2006 and 2007.
The Joakim Noah, Al Horford days.
With Billy Donovan, which is just recently, those 2 titles got him into the Hall of Fame.
God, man, that run for Florida was legendary.
And the Cougars are looking for their first national championship
Ever. 0-2 in title games, too.
And both coaches are also searching for their first title. I'm going to go to Florida head coach Todd Golden on making the Natty.
It's pretty incredible, man. We worked pretty hard to get here, and in 3 years, been fortunate to build a great staff that is aligned and that works really hard for each other. And then we've just accumulated a great group of guys, in our roster. It took a little bit to get all these pieces together, but, to a man, they all pull the same direction. There's no unselfishness in our locker room. You see a guy like Walt, he gets asked all the questions and gets all the attention for a great effort like tonight, but there's no animosity there. There's nobody, concerned about that. These guys are just trying to win a championship. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what our program is and, the strides that we've made over these past couple of years.
And again, the Florida Gators led by Walton Clayton Jr. he's a stud, man. 30 points in the last couple games. As I said, first person to do that since Larry Bird, since the Indiana State era. I'm not going to go back and tell you what year that is. If you know what year it is, good for you. But Houston has a big, big challenge ahead of them because Florida looks good inside, but this defensive-minded team in Houston could potentially be the Achilles heel that Florida hasn't actually gone up against yet. Because if you watch the game against Auburn had them beat in the first half. Florida came out flat, absolutely flat. And I don't know what pep talk they got in the halftime show to turn around that entire situation, but they came out and locked down Auburn, including their star, to let him only had 3 points in the second half. The guy couldn't hit anything. I felt bad because if you watch the game of Michigan State versus Auburn right before this in the Elite Eight, it really did feel like Auburn kind of left everything they had on the court against Michigan State. And I hate saying that because this happens almost every year where you watch a game. It seems like the crowd is behind you, but it also seems like they're two behind you, if that makes sense to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're watching the game, and you can tell you might be burning out the candle a little too quickly. You still have 2 more games, and I think that's what happened to Auburn. I think Auburn burnt themselves out in the game against Michigan State and the first half against Florida, and then Florida came out. Clayton just caught fire, and they did not look back, and it just ran away with that game. If you allow Florida to do that again, they will win this national championship.
I don't see it. I mean, I think if anyone's going to be able to slow down
that's
Clayton,
exactly what I was just about to say.
Is going to be Houston. I think their defense is going to win, and I'll go back to that. Defenses win championships, and I think that's what we're going to see tonight.
I argue they don't win them anymore, though.
We'll see.
I argue in this generation,
I don't think it's going to be as close. I don't think it's going to be as close as everyone thinks.
You know what? And what are you saying? In which way, though? Do you think Houston runs away with this? Yeah. Okay?
I believe so.
So Houston over Florida. I'll take Florida if you take Houston.
I've got Houston.
Okay,
that's
what that's true. You can't
I've got
exactly
Houston
turn
all
back
the way,
up.
so I can't turn back.
For those of you who are wondering too, Houston's had 26 different NCAA tournament appearances. They've gone 45-30 in those appearances, 7 Final Fours, in which they've gotten to 2 title games and lost every one.
I think this is the year. And I'm going to go to Seth Greenberg and what he thinks is going to happen tonight.
It starts with their defense. They got to get stops. They got to get stops so they can play ahead of that defense, so they can get Walter Clayton in space attacking, playing downhill, but more importantly, flattening that defense out. Because if you flatten out in transition when the ball comes out, they've got to close out. And then you've got to compete. What I mean by that is everyone's competing. They think about defensively. You got to compete offensively. What does that mean? Set hard screens. Cut hard. Be strong with the basketball. If you drive it in the lane, land on 2 feet, make a good decision. All right, take what the defense gives you. But if you're playing against Houston and you don't compete offensively, they are going to push you out. They're going to limit you to 1 shot, and you're going to have a problem. The big X factor in this thing is everyone's talking about Houston's rebounding. This Florida team rebounds almost 40% of the misses. That's a higher percentage than Houston.
That's the point I was making, is that Florida's big guys are active, they're strong, and they love to bully. And that's why I'm saying that Houston, although defensive minded, it's going to be a tough game handling that and Clayton at the same time. So I personally think you have to tackle Clayton first and make sure he doesn't score anywhere near 30 points.
And Houston's got to stay hot. I mean, they were hot at the 3-point line against Duke, and that's going to have to,
well, I mean,
move
it's like
over
you said, they had to score 15 points in 7 points in 15 seconds. I'm sorry, I almost doubled them. 7 points in 15 seconds to beat Duke. And
if it wasn't for that flag or the penalty and flag, I mean,
Cooper had a shot.
They were going cold that whole second half pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked like, not to bash any coaching, but what was working was going to the paint, and they stopped doing it.
See, and I think that's a critical problem with the game today in basketball, is that we are so geared towards the 3-pointer now, thanks to the way that the game has changed due to Steph Curry and all these guys shooting the lights out all the time. 3 points last night, by the way, against the Rockets. We'll get to that in the second half.
Sprinkle that in.
But that's kind of the point that I need to make here too, is inside baskets still happen and go in more often. So why go away from that? When you got a game, I understand Houston's big men are active and tough, but like you said, they were bullying in the first half the entire time. Cooper Flag was backing them down, getting easy shots.
And getting all the calls.
You need points. You don't need threes. You need points. So go get the easy points. That's always what has been preached to me throughout my basketball career as a kid and then throughout high school. Take the easy shots. Don't try to go out of your way to look cool. And that's what Duke did, unfortunately. They tried to go out of their way to make the big play over and over and over.
That's exactly what our coach preached to us. High percentage goals.
Yes, get it done, man. That's all you have to do. Go score. That's the best way to win a game. And they just went away from what was working, as you just said, Sparky. And that's what shot Duke in the foot. And now Houston is staring a championship in the mug and potentially could walk away with their very first one, as you said. But
they go 0-3.
I'm still going with the Gators. I'm still
no.
going with Clayton and the Gators. From what I've seen with the Gators, as I said last week on Monday, the Gators to me looked like the number 1 seed to beat throughout this entire tournament. They have bullied everybody.
Same with Duke.
Well, Duke looked good. Don't get me wrong, against the teams they should have. But as we saw against Houston, there's moments where inexperience, I would say, is what came and bit them in the butt.
Well, that's what I'll be watching. I'll be flickering back and forth with Raw. Luckily, Raw's I can
yes,
watch.
We're back to
post.
normal time with Raw as it goes to Minneapolis, Minnesota.
But we are on a motivational Monday right here on the Early Bird Special.
Yes, and on the other side of the break, you're going to get the greatest motivational speech of your week as you go into your work week. And just to remind you that work ethic is everything. So we'll get to that on the other side of the break on this Motivation Monday. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM as ESPN Bakersfield, and streaming live at espnbakersfield.com, as well as video streaming on the Early Bird Special YouTube page. We'll be right back.
you. You lost again and again and again. The lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day and saying to yourself, it's not over until I win.
They will not put out more content than me. Beast mode, 1, 2, 3. Beast mode, 1, 2, 3. Beast mode, 1, 2, 3. Beast mode. I beast mode my way to number 1.
The feeling of failure, the feeling of shame.
Where's your motivation?
But you're going to have some ups and you're going to have some downs.
This is amazing. I feel incredible. Yes, 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 yes. I can win. I feel great. I can do this.
It's always a great Monday when we can start it with Motivation Monday and Piccolo, of course. But as I have already teased it and teed it up for you guys, if you guys haven't seen this show, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. The show Shoresy on Hulu, headed by Jared Kiso, a fantastic comedian from Canada. This entire show based on hockey players and what they do in what is called the North Ontario Senior Hockey Organization, or the No Show. But he is actually speaking post his career in the No Show to a group of high schoolers headed off to the big time, headed off to the show themselves. And this is a great way to start your Monday because it reminds everybody what is really, really important in what you do when what you are doing is what you love. So let's go ahead and hear from Shoresy.
You can't skate, you can't shoot, you're ugly, and he's so awkward. Oh my God. But you're lucky, because none of that really matters. What matters is effort, work ethic. So when you get to camp, what are you going to be?
The hardest worker out there.
That's right, the hardest worker out there. Say it again.
The hardest worker out there.
That's right, say it again.
The hardest worker out there.
That's what matters. That's what gets you remembered. You understand? Do you think anyone's going to be thinking about Jack's big forehead when they see a guy who will play an entire period if you need him to? Do you think anyone's going to be thinking about Mason's back sits when they see a guy who's willing to push through the pain? And hey, don't forget where you come from. You're from the north. You're from Sudbury. We ain't pretty and we get dirty. Make sure when they see your number out there, they see your hometown in the program and they say bingo. Of course. You're from the home of the smokestacks. You're from the home of the mines. And you're from the home of the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs. Represent. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Don't sound like it, boys.
Yeah. Ready to do what it takes?
Yeah.
To be unforgettable?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Get dirty. Get ugly. Get the job done.
Let's go. Here we go.
If that don't get you up on your feet for your work day, I don't know what will, Sparky.
Represent.
Get the job done. Go make your money, and don't forget where you come from. And I'm going to tell you right now, if there's any place in Canada that's like Bakersfield, it's Sudbury, baby. We got the best looking people on the planet, and we are all D-gens. We all love to be here. Everybody is it's a small town mentality. We all take care of our own, and I love that. But at this point right now, that is probably the best motivation you're going to get for your Monday.
I've got to watch that show.
It's so good. It is so good. It's one of my favorite shows on Hulu. It is a spinoff from a very popular Canadian sitcom is the best way to put it. It's called Letterkenny. It is also very fantastic. It highly recommend it for anybody who's looking for something to watch on Hulu right now. And I did have to cut out some things for those of you who are fans. There's plenty of cussing in this show, and I had to get rid of what I could.
Well, before the show started, I was going through some clips. I'm like, I can't use that. I can't use that.
And it's tough not to, but at the same time, because I mean, I don't know. I use cussing in my everyday life. Just put a little flavor on my wording. But
as some seasoning.
When it comes to Shoresy, it is a fantastic show. It's funny from top to bottom. And at this point, that is still to this day one of the best motivational speeches a coach could give his kids. And it's true. The one thing that is worth it in any way, shape, or form is your work ethic. Work on that. Everybody appreciates work ethic and what you can do for them. But at the same time, it matters how much you care about what you do. And if you put every bit of effort into what you do every single day, much like we said last week with the good, better, best comment, you are going to get better at what you love because you care. And that's the best part about it all. So
well said.
Thank you, my friend. Now we'll hit it into hour two. For you baseball fans, the Dodgers finally went down over the weekend to my mighty Phils.
Not once,
but twice. We'll get into that as well as the biggest contract signing in baseball history to date. Congratulations, Vladdy Jr., staying in Toronto for 14 years. Let's see how much you like that for the next decade and a half. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We'll be back after the break. We got to go pay some bills. We'll see you then. Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. And before we went to break, we teed it up for you a little bit, but there's a lot going on in baseball as there was last week. The mighty Dodgers have been taken down as they lose their first series on the season to the Philadelphia Phillies. Again, as we said last week, Sparky, on Friday when we talked about this, because Stephen A. Smith and his group of guys were all talking about how potentially the Dodgers are ruining baseball because they are so good. I think my Phils just went out there and showed everybody on Friday and Sunday exactly what you need to do to beat the Dodgers and actually keep this season afloat. Now, as we said last week, the 162-0 thoughts and dreams of the Dodger fans and absolutely just ridiculous. That was never going to happen. I'm sorry. That's not a slight against the Dodgers or anything, but
it shouldn't even have been brought up until like 60-0.
No, it was so dumb. We all knew they were going to lose eventually. There's no slight against them. They're still the championship favorites by far.
Oh, yes.
And yes, you didn't have Freddie Freeman, as every Dodger fan loves to tell me. We didn't have Freddie. You had Shohei. You had Mookie.
No.
You had everybody else.
8 other All-Stars.
You had 80 other players on this dang team that are all all-star caliber, so let's not even go there.
And the Dodgers did play Snell on IL.
Yes, they
With
did.
shoulder inflammation.
Which sucks, but at this point, if you're a Dodger fan, you're fine.
So the 3-game series went back and forth, right?
Yes, the Phillies won Friday, the Dodgers won Saturday, and then the Phillies eventually won last night, Sunday, as the Dodgers walked 11 Philadelphia Phillies, including 5 from starter Tyler Glasnow, who did not look good at the mound at all. He was pulled, I believe, after 2 1/3 inning or something like that. He didn't look great. The Phillies capitalized on a lot of mistakes that the Dodgers made, which is the point I tried to make to you guys last week. The Dodgers are still human. All humans are made to error. We are going to mess up, which means the Dodgers are going to mess up. They're going to lose. Now, can you beat them in a 7-game series? Let's calm down.
Yes.
Let's calm down. Can the Phillies beat them in a 7-game series?
It'd be a tough one.
It would be, but is it possible?
That'd be a hell of a matchup.
It's absolutely possible. Is it probable? No, probably not. The Dodgers still look like they're the best team in the entire baseball organization. They're probably going to walk their way to the championship out of the NL. They have more studs on that team that are getting paid for over a decade and a half than anybody will ever see. It's not that big, but it's another example of, and as I texted you on Friday, Sparky, just joking, if the Dodgers are the villains of this entire situation and are ruining baseball, does that mean the Philadelphia Phillies just saved it?
I was waiting for that one.
I mean, are we really going to shoot over this? If we're shooting over the moon here and talk about 162-0 season, because I had Dodger fans saying, you guys ruined the perfect season. Yeah, that's the whole point of baseball. It's to compete. We're not here, just as Bryce Harper said, and I honestly wanted to cut the audio, but it's a moot point now. The only people who are complaining about the Dodgers and what they're doing are losers. That's it. You don't see the Philadelphia Phillies crying about it. You don't see the Braves crying about it. You don't see the Padres. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Padres cry about anything. But the point being, you don't see the big name teams who are hoping to compete complaining that the Dodgers are buying everybody. They're competing. They're trying to get better. They're making their team better every year. And the teams that are complaining about it are the ones at the bottom who are just throwing away their pieces because they know they can't keep them there happy. So at this point right now, no, baseball is not being ruined, especially not by the Dodgers. But this was a great showing of it's still baseball. There's still a chance. Just go out and play baseball. The Phillies did nothing different than what they've been doing every single year. And I also want to point out, Dodger fans, Phillies have your number every single year. You may beat them every so often, but the Phillies are no, I'm not even throwing punches. I'm stating facts.
I've got
the Phillies
Dodger fans that text me Friday. Your verdict's going to be going off on that. And then Saturday, my phone blew up again. Oh, you send this to Birdie. I said, find him on Instagram.
Yeah,
I don't
come
want to get in the middle of this crap.
I have I deal with more Dodger fans than anybody.
When you're at
this point right now,
when you're a fan of a team that's outside of California.
Exactly. Well, all of my teams are outside of California.
Exactly.
I don't care. I had friends text me on Saturday, post the score today. Post the score today. And guess what I did on Sunday? Post the score and tagged them. You guys love to chit chat. You guys love to talk. And that's why I love to take jabs at you, because you're honestly starting to act like Yankee fans.
Ooh.
You're starting to act like Patriot fans.
That's our next promo.
That's what it is. Y'all are talking, but I'm here. I'm just like Debo. Y'all could be talking, but the minute something pops up that I could talk about,
you be walking
away real quick. Real quick. Debo just came to town and y'all shut up real quick. But going into this, the Phils are headed out.
See, that's why you got to love baseball. We're like, 10 games in?
Exactly. And we have a whole dang season ahead of us.
People only 150 games left.
I mean, for all I know, Bryce Harper could get hurt, knock on wood, and we be out of the entire situation. I don't care. Don't care. It's all about highlighting baseball, baby. And at this point, if you're a Dodger fan, good for you. But you're not going to be happy in the next decade, I promise you, especially when you're paying Shohei well after he's retired. Now Phillies are headed out for a 6-game road trip, going to Atlanta first, 1-8. sitting on the season as they are trying to piece things together. And then they head out to St. Louis to go hang out with the 4-4 Cardinals. The Dodgers are now headed to Washington, the nation's capital, to face off against the 3-6 Nationals, as they'll have to deal with Gore in the first game. And then we'll head home for a 3-game stint against the strong-looking Chicago Cubs at 7-5. Now,
Chicago Cubs. That's
Chicago
Sunday night
has been-
baseball, I believe.
It is, but the Chicago has been run by the Dodgers the last 2 times they played each other, so I am not expecting the Cubs to win any of these games at all, but still could be pretty entertaining to watch on your Sunday. So you get some Dodger baseball in the weekend for you.
And I did see over the weekend, Judge hit his 6th homer in 7 games.
Again, is anybody surprised?
No.
It's Aaron Judge.
Yes.
The guy from Florida, or from Fresno State. Like, mind you, everyone forgets about that. This boy's from Fresno. He played at Fresno, for those of you who didn't get to watch him. Like, he was a stud at Fresno State, too. Was he what he is now? Absolutely not. But he was an absolute monster for the Bulldogs. And, again, is anybody surprised? It's the Yankees.
Yeah.
The Yankees are going to hit home runs. That's what they're literally built to do. They went and got Cody Bellinger. Why? He hits home runs. They went and got Jazz Chisholm. Why? He hits home runs. They made torpedo bats. Why? To hit more home runs.
I was going to say, that just sets up perfectly because the MLB commissioner
has finally chimed in on this.
Finally, and said the torpedo bats have provided an early sub-pilot for the season.
Absolutely.
But says they are absolutely great for the Major League Baseball.
And I agree.
He's comfy and it complies with all the rules. So what's the problem?
That's what I've been saying for the past week.
And I will give you credit because last week I was getting blown up like, oh, this is crap. This is another way, blah, blah, blah.
What did I say?
It's within the reach. And
nothing was broken.
What other teams are, putting their order lists on? Because
Braves already put theirs in. Phillies have theirs. The Twins have theirs. I believe the Dodgers had already put theirs in too.
And speaking of the Braves did get their win.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you were the Dodgers and you're not thinking right now, looking at Kike Hernandez hitting 105 and Max Muncy's 180 ass and sit there and say, maybe we need some torpedoes in LA. Yeah, you need torpedoes.
Well, not only did we bring up the Dodgers losing not 1 but 2, but the Braves did get their win. My question to you on Friday was,
who wins it first?
Was it the Dodgers going to win or lose first?
Technically, I was right.
And it
both
happened on Friday.
Because
who
the Braves, I called it though, because remember what I said. Now I was wrong, but I was right because I said the Dodgers were going to continue their win streak for 12 games, not knowing they were headed to Philadelphia. That's on me. But I did say that the Braves would win their first game before the Dodgers lost theirs, and technically they did because the Braves won before the Dodgers lost. So I wasn't wrong. I was wrong, but I wasn't wrong.
Well, I didn't know it was going to happen on the same damn day.
Nobody would have saw that happening. But again, they still haven't won a game since. The Braves still haven't figured it out. I feel sorry for them at a point, but this is baseball, baby. You gotta you gotta bounce back. You gotta find a way. I don't know what Jerickson Profar wasn't that big of a player for you. And I know you're still missing Ronald Acuna, but you have Ozzie, you got Riley at third. The team is still what they used to be. They just need their guys back. That's all it is. Health has not been a pleasant thing for the Braves.
And keeping it in baseball, somebody got paid.
Oh my God, Vladdy got paid.
Did you see this contract?
Vladdy got paid. Vladdy finally got paid, and I'm telling you right now, it's probably the smartest thing that the Toronto Blue Jays have ever done in their organizational careers. But 14 years, $500 million. 14 years, $500 million for a guy who has not sniffed the MVP race.
That's insane.
Is wild. I love Vladdy. I do. He is one of the most exciting young players. When Toronto had him and Burchett and the entire, I don't want to call it the Nepo baby lineup, but essentially that's what it was. They looked so exciting.
You just brought that saying up, then it just pictured me.
It's true.
Chippy.
You had the entire Toronto Blue Jays organization were all kids of former players. I mean, at that point, all you were missing was Bobby Witt Jr. And then you would have had an entire team of Nepo babies. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But they look so exciting. They've shipped out every other piece, including Bo Burchett since then. And they are now desperately trying to hold on to the best part of that team, which is Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Honestly, you know what it reminds me of? When the Thunder were desperately trying to hold on to Russell Westbrook. That's exactly what it holds on to.
That was bad years.
But at this point, it's more of you're trying to hold on to Kevin Durant than you are Russell Westbrook, because Vladdy was clearly the best of the group. But $500 million.
14-year, $500 million contract
and
extension which is what, the third largest?
And they're not a big market.
No,
they're not a big market.
They opened
team.
that checkbook though.
They did, but now you're putting yourself in a bad state of you're not necessarily going to compete because the best players on your team, you got 2 sluggers. I will give you Vladdy and Anthony Santander, fantastic players. But usually when players get paid, the stats take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in a sense of they're going to take a step back for these guys, but they possibly could. But
that's a contract that's going to be difficult to live up to. I mean, that goes to the Soto's 15 years, 765, and Otani's 10 years, 700.
And look, granted, it's still lower than theirs, but imagine having to trade him if you needed to. The amount of money you're going to have to ask a team. No, actually, you're not even going to have to ask a team. You're going to have to eat it regardless. 14 years. 14 years.
I was going to ask you because these long contracts like Soto's, like Otani's, and now Guerrero Jr.'s, I mean,
Bryce Harper's.
Does this make it just totally difficult to trade?
It makes it incredibly difficult to trade, although longevity is nice in baseball, and you always have the arbitration offers to shift around contracts every year. But I don't like it on a sense of if this doesn't work out, which I'm sorry, it's Toronto. It's not going to work out. You're playing the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Orioles all the time. All 3 of those teams are monsters, and they have way more on their markets than you do. And to put all of your money behind one guy who has not won anything, like Philly doing it for Bryce Harper is completely different. Bryce Harper won MVPs. He had been to the championship, although he hadn't won one, but he has shown that he is worth that money. Vladdy, as great as he is as a batter, can't necessarily say he is deserving of $500 million deal because he hasn't done anything. The best he's done in his career is win the home run derby. And we've all known how well that works out for him. Ask Jock Peterson. How well does that work out for players who win the home run derby? How many championships do those guys usually win? Like, let's be honest. Jock Peterson's the only one, and he has to jump around every team every year just to be in the consideration. So I don't necessarily love the deal. I love the longevity of the deal, although he's not going to be in Toronto for 14 years.
That is insane.
That is insane. If this was a Dodger deal, okay, because you're in LA and it's hard to walk away from a place like LA or New York or Philadelphia or something like that. But Toronto.
But speaking of money, before we go pay some bills, they look like there's paying some bills after they had to come out and apologize to Clemente's family.
Roberto Clemente.
Because so the Pirates come out and they took down his, was that PNG Park?
Yes. Or PNC Park.
They I don't even know how to really address this, but they put
they have a logo, they have the Roberto Clemente logo in the right field wall of PNC Park, have for years, because obviously Roberto Clemente is a massive part of the Pirates organization in the past. And the ownership group, as Sparky has been alluding to, decided they want to put an advertisement there over the logo. Well, in the world of social media, obviously people are going to see that and share. And they came across the feed on Twitter of Roberto's son. I'm not sure what his name is. I'm not going to even try right now. It matters not. But they went to social media to claim
Junior.
Is it Junior?
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's Roberto Jr. And they're not happy about it, understandably. So the organization, including the president of the Pirates, Travis Williams, had to run it back, claims that it was an oversight of everything. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Sparky? Do you believe him on this oversight thing as I look up
that's a
quote?
What was it, like 20-something feet, 21 feet high?
Oh, it was a massive.
And I'm like, that's
you did that on
just
purpose,
accidentally
homie.
do that. And it was a Surfside, an alcoholic drink out there, and that's not an oversight when it's that big.
So,
and I understand, trying to make the money when you can, while you can, especially with it follows the story, when you're paying, your superstars $400 or $500 million.
Right.
I mean, I get it,
but still,
when it comes to
claim this is an oversight is ridiculous.
I mean, can you imagine any other, major teams, if it was like, the Lakers covering up Shaq or covering up somebody, or even, keeping in baseball, I mean, Clemente is one of those names that you just don't mess with.
Right.
And to just cover it with an alcoholic drink sponsorship.
Am I wrong to say this is a very Pittsburgh Pirate thing to do? Like, the Steelers would never get caught dead doing something like this, but the Pirates, for some reason, have a really bad track record of just making boneheaded decisions for the Buckies, and it sucks. But here, let me read the full quote. This is from The Athletic of what the owner, Travis Williams, had to say about all this. We did not intend to disrespect the legacy of Roberto Clemente by adding the advertisement to the pad in right field. When we added the advertisement to the pad, it was an oversight not to keep the 21 logo. This is ultimately on me, not on anyone else in the organization. It was an honest mistake. We have used this area for advertisement for many years. When we didn't have a sponsor coming out of COVID, we added an advertisement element in 2022 to honor the legacy of Roberto. It was a replica of the Three Rivers signage honoring him. We want to make sure that the Clemente family understands that we intended no disrespect to their father. It was an honest mistake. Now, so basically he just said, well, back in 2022, we desperately needed advertisement and no one would pay for it. So we just put Roberto's thing there. But now that somebody wants to pay for the spot, we removed it. And that's my fault. I'm sorry. That's all I heard out of that.
Yeah, it's a temporary.
Yeah, it was a temporary oversight. I'm sorry. We were just looking to make money.
It looked like a temporary fill.
Now, but see, that's my point. If both of the statement he made didn't make sense to me, because if this was meant to be a honoring situation for Roberto, it is no longer a place that you should be able to sell advertisement. Why this is even out in the world as a whole shows me you don't give a dang about what you did in 2022. You did that to help and bring fans in. That's all you were doing. You were trying to appease to the fan base and the family itself to get more money out of the family. And now that that's not getting you money, you put an advertisement there to make money. It's ridiculous. The entire move was dumb. If you're going to put something in right field to commemorate one of the greatest players that you've ever had in your organization, Roberto Clemente, one of the best players to ever play baseball, don't sit there and say it was an oversight as if you didn't know it was there. Stop it. You knew what you were doing. You didn't think anyone would notice, especially not Clemente's family, and you were hoping to make some side cash, and the Clemente family was pissed about it because they're most likely still paying you to have that logo there.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So where's that?
It's always about money.
And for him to sit there and say, well, this is on me, no one else. Duh.
Who else?
Duh, Travis.
Who else has that?
Who
pull?
else? Yeah, exactly. Who else is going to take the bunt of this? Of course this is on you, dummy. Like, come on, man.
I wonder what the money is. I wonder what the money is for that sponsorship.
Yeah, we'd have to look into the actual odds and ends of all of this. If anybody wants to do that for us, if you're a Bucky's fan and want to send that over because you're outraged about this, feel free to. I'd love to spread more about this. But for Travis Williams, the president of the Pirates, to come out and say this was an oversight and that this is on me and no one else, duh.
Yeah, duh.
We know that. The apology was half-assed, in my opinion, and arguably, again, just showing that a lot of these organizations in baseball only give a dang about one thing, and that's making more money.
Oh, yeah, and it'll keep them in the news when they put it back up. And
exactly.
It's just silly. And we'll go, after this break, we'll go over to the NBA. There's plenty to talk about with 4 games left. I believe this is the last week of the regular season. And before we wrap up this segment, I want to throw out some NASCAR love because Hamlin got the win at Darlington yesterday, and it was a hell of a race. I got to watch the last 10 minutes, which is the best of the race.
That's the only time anybody ever pays attention.
With the win, Hamlin moved up to number 2 in the NASCAR Cup Series standings.
They're making a left turn. They're making another left turn.
Christopher Bell also improved to number 3. And the Cup Series will continue with the Food City 500 in Bristol, April 13th. And, you mentioned earlier Steph Curry getting 3 points after we gave him love last week.
Yeah, we were going to get into that in the NBA.
We'll get into this and the updated NBA standings right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I'll play this after Obi. Remind me of the Triple X movies. Welcome back.
Young children.
Lost. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. That's Rammstein.
Rammstein. I've actually
wondering.
seen live.
Have you really?
Yeah, they played
Are
it.
they as crazy as they were in the
Oh yeah.
Triple X movie?
Oh yeah.
That's still one of the coolest intros to any spy movie I've ever seen in my life. Although Triple X, when you really boil it down, is probably a terrible spy movie. But
It
the
reminded me
opening-
of Slipknot.
Yeah.
Slipknot live was insane.
You know, Disturbed live was really cool too. I really
Which I'll
enjoyed that.
see here in a couple weeks.
Hey, there you go.
Again.
Fantastic.
NBA.
Yes, we have plenty to talk about the NBA because, I mean, let's start with the Lakers, my friend, as we are in the West Coast and everybody loves to talk about LeBron and Luka. And as we stated last week, the Lakers are probably the one team the Oklahoma City Thunder do not want to see in the playoffs coming up. And Sunday showed you exactly why. 126-99 was your final score in Oklahoma City. This was not in LA. And that matters. I want people to know because the one place that young players play well is at home. And I'm going to tell you right now, if the playoffs are any indication, if this game is any indication of what we will see in the playoffs, rather, I apologize, they are in trouble.
Yes.
Because let's not forget who bounced the Oklahoma City Thunder out of the playoffs last year. Do you remember who that was, Sparky?
Who's that?
That was Luka and the Mavericks.
He did drop 30 in that game.
And
we talked a lot of OKC last week. You know, they're young. You know, a lot of teams don't, or a lot of fans don't expect much of them unless you're an OKC fan. But depending on how the standings, which there's only 3-4 games left for a lot of these teams this week.
Yeah.
So OKC's locked in the one, but you know, that's sometimes with a number one team, how the seedings are, you know, if a team gets a week off,
right,
sometimes that shoots them right in the foot, especially when a team like the Lakers can start getting hot.
Right.
You know, they're going to have to probably get by Golden State. That's who they play as of right now. We'll know midweek, you know, a lot of these standings.
Depending on how the season ends for the Oklahoma City Thunder and how the play-in tournament goes for the West, they could get bounced round one. And I know that's blasphemy. I get it. Like, they're 64 wins into the season. Most likely will hit 66-68 and tie what LeBron did with Cleveland. But when you really look at how this team is built, it is fantastic young stars. But young stars don't win you championships that often. They really don't.
So it looks like they'll either play Sacramento or Dallas.
As it sits right now. Well, no,
it doesn't look
remember,
like that's moved. That's locked in.
No, because remember, the play-in tournament goes like this. 8 and 9 play each other, and then 10 and 11 play each other. And then the loser of 8 and 9 plays the winner of 10 and 11. I'm sorry, no.
No.
Yes. No, that's how that works. I know the
how does that work?
Game works. Because that's how
play the 9 and 10.
Then the 8 and 9 play each other. I'm sorry,
winner
no.
Plays
the 7 and
loser.
8. The 7 and 8 play each other. I apologize. That's where I'm mixing this up. 7 and 8 play each other. 9 and 10 play each other.
The winner
of
play
7
the
and 8 goes in. The loser of 7 and 8 plays the winner of 9 and 10. That's how the play-in tournament works.
Yeah.
I apologize. I mixed up.
1
the
and 2
rankings.
get the bye.
1 and 2 do not get a bye. There is no buys in the NBA playoffs.
They get to sit while the play-ins play.
Well,
That's
all
a
of them
bye.
sit. Remember, all teams sit. No,
I understand how the basketball playoffs work.
No, I understand that. I'm not trying to explain to you. I'm explaining to people who don't understand. But my point is, you're not sitting and waiting for anybody. Everybody's sitting and waiting. It's more of who they play. It's not necessarily. It could not be the Mavericks. It could not be the Kings right now. Neither of them could not make it.
They're locked in at 9 and 10, though, is what I'm saying.
I'm aware, but that's not who there's no guarantee that they are playing.
They'll have to get by Memphis or Minnesota as of right now.
Right, but that's my point. Is you were saying that they are definitely playing Dallas or Sacramento.
That's not what I was saying.
Oh, but that's what I understood. But regardless, this is all a moot point. If they get past the first round, because let's look at the 4 play-in teams as they sit right now, which could potentially change anyway, because 6 through 8 are all tied. So it doesn't necessarily matter. We don't even know who the last 2 play-in teams are going to be.
Yeah,
Sacramento
the Lakers
and
all the way up
Dallas,
to 3.
Well, I understand.
4 games.
Sacramento and Dallas aren't going to make it out of the play-in tournament.
No.
There's no, well, Sacramento might. Dallas most likely will not. But even then, you're not going to beat Oklahoma City with a team like Sacramento.
Yeah, a team like Sacramento and Dallas are looking up.
However, if they play a team like Minnesota, they're ultimately probably going to get bounced in the first round.
Yeah.
Was the point I was trying to make.
Depending, like we were saying, who gets hot. That's why I don't like. That's the only thing I don't like about the new playoff seedings from a couple years ago is how teams can go in hot and then have to wait, 4 or 5 days,
right?
Which is a long wait when you're playing, a long season. And some teams like, the younger teams like OKC, that might be a beneficial thing when they're young.
I disagree. I think it goes the opposite way around. I think young players get more rusty because players that have been there and have been in the situation know what they have to do to keep themselves
played
hot.
half the season. Is like the vets that don't play the full season. It's the same thing. If you're going to mention that, is the young teams can. I think it's the younger legs. It could be better.
I mean, again, I see where your point is for that one. I just think it's going to go the opposite direction if you sit there and wait on it.
But either way, a number one team, I think I don't see OKC getting knocked out in the first round.
It depends who they play. If they play Minnesota, they're getting bounced in the first round. I promise you.
We'll put the money on that one.
I can guarantee it, but I doubt Minnesota makes it as the 8 seed. They're probably going to make it as the 7 if they're even in the play
Houston.
Tournament.
Yeah.
Houston, they're like, if they play Dallas, Memphis, or Sacramento, any of those three, they make it out of the first round. If they play Minnesota, LA, Golden State, or any of those teams that are tied between 6 to 8 right now.
I wonder what the schedule is.
There's a couple different ones, but I don't see Oklahoma City beating those teams out of a series of 7 because they don't have the experience to do so. And if we're going to talk about them waiting a couple days, because again, I make the point that everybody's waiting, so it doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, it's just something you're going to have to get used to because it's the play-in tournament, and it's really only 2 to 3 days. If anything, you're not really sitting a whole week.
I just don't see OKC getting knocked out in the first round.
I get that, but it's different in football when you have a whole week to sit on. You know what I mean? Like your point is a very good point in that situation, but in basketball, it's a little different because you're not going to be waiting that long. It's more.
I'm just looking over it as a series. I don't see one of these teams, whether it's the bottom 6. I mean, out of the top 10, I don't see the bottom 5 being able to go into a series and beat an OKC.
I honestly, I have to disagree with you. I think there are a couple
That's
teams.
good.
The bottom 3, for sure, I agree, can't do it. Like I said, Dallas, Sacramento, and Memphis.
But that
can't do it.
Goes back to what you were mentioning, because a lot of these teams, I mean, that's the best part of the last week of the regular season, because the West isn't locked in.
No.
Far from it. And really, besides OKC and Houston,
it was like
there's
this
a lot of movements.
Too,
and I really want to see the Lakers and Warriors, but with 4 games, we're going to keep an eye on this for the this whole week because we'll lock it in. But I believe the Lakers are playing OKC this week, so there's going to be, they play them again, I believe, on Tuesday.
And I'm going to point it out again. They're going to make them look stupid. The Lakers will make the Thunder look stupid. Again, let's not forget the Thunder were the number 1 team in the West last year. This is all happening the exact same way as last season. There was a 4-way tie in the West last year too that ended up breaking up in the last couple days. Ended up with the Lakers at the bottom. This time the Lakers aren't in it. But the OKC Thunder narrowly made it out of the first round, looked somewhat impressive, and then hit a team with more experience, aka Luka, in the second round and got embarrassed. This is how this stuff works. I mean, again, I'm not saying this is a slight to the Thunder. I'm saying this is somebody who's a Cleveland Cavaliers fan and has lived through this. Cleveland had the same thing happen to them the last 3-4 years.
And it really depends on what Lakers show up in the playoffs. You can look at it as a video game and say, oh, you got Luka, LeBron.
I understand.
But that's also the same team that just lost to the Bulls last week by 30 points too. So, I believe that's when I look into.
You guys didn't beat them by 30. You won on a buzzer beater.
Look, 2 days before that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the last one.
They beat the Lakers by 30, and then they beat them by 2. And we're looking at a team like the Bulls that are playing hot, but then they're a bottom of the standings type team. They're
in the East, yeah.
Exactly. So that's what, as a basketball fan, I look at it not just, who's playing hot, but I look at it as a team overall in a game 7 or a 7-game series. I just don't see it. But prove me wrong. I mean, OKC's 4 games away from getting 68 wins this season, and I just don't see
But
one
again,
of those bottom 4 teams going in and beating them 4 times.
it's like I said though, or it's not like I said. I'm sorry. It's like
Okay,
Marcus Morris
this
said last
OKC
week.
team this year is way different than
It's
an
not,
OKC
though.
team. It
It's
is though. If you
not.
watch
It's the
OKC
same
play,
roster,
just
bud.
because they lose to the Lakers by 30, it's the same team that just lost to the Bulls by 30.
Again, I get that point, but that's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm
That's
saying
why basketball is awesome.
I agree.
I love this 7-game series, and hopefully we can talk about this when we get into the playoffs.
I agree with you. But again, as it sits right now, I'm going to stick with my statement, and I will give you the bottom 3 for sure cannot. So if they face Sacramento, which is most likely the one that'll make it out of that, or Dallas, they easily walk past them.
And that can open up a whole other conversation, because I don't think the Lakers get by the Warriors.
See, I disagree there too. I think
I
there's
just
a
don't
good
see it.
chance. That'll be a great series if they even see each other.
Exactly.
Because they most likely will be on the opposite side of the bracket
Of
from
the
each
bracket,
other.
yeah.
So,
but
it won't
as of
even
right
matter.
now, as of today, the Lakers would be playing the Warriors, and Denver would be playing the Clippers, along with Minnesota and Memphis and Sacramento and Dallas in those.
Again, the only 2 in the West that I can honestly see getting bounced real quick is Sacramento and Dallas, and maybe Memphis because of the absolute dumpster fire they have going right now.
And I already know what you're going to say about the East. Like you said last week, it's Cleveland and Boston.
Until anybody proves me different. I mean, again, the Cavs got the Pacers 2 times before the end of the year, so that'll be a good indicator. But the Pacers can't play defense. They won last night against the Nuggets, but still gave up 120, 130 points. If you go against any team that plays defense, the Pacers are going to struggle. And outside of that, the Bucks really are the only other contender, because I have no faith in the Knicks. I've never had any faith in the Knicks. This entire situation they got brewing over there.
They barely got by the Suns last night.
Yeah, the Villanova team being put together. It's so dumb. It did not work. It hasn't worked, and it's just. And I don't even think Jalen Brunson's playing.
He came back last night.
Did he come back last night?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because they desperately need him to be successful.
He
Because
put up
Karl Anthony
15.
Towns is not going to get you to a championship.
No, and I love the coach. And Brunson put up 15 and 6 assists, but I agree with you 100%
And honestly,
with the Knicks.
Since we talked about the Warriors a little bit, we have to mention it too. Warriors got manhandled by the Rockets last night and held Steph to 3 points.
That's insane.
Are we really going to sit there and say that team can beat the Lakers right now?
I
A
do.
3-point shooting Steph?
In a series.
Okay.
In a series.
Okay. Again, we will see. But at this point right now, the Lakers are hot. So are the Warriors. I'm not saying they're not. This is their first loss with this starting 5 that they've had. But this was, again, another embarrassing loss right now when you can't have that.
Yep.
You can't. And right now with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Warriors, who last week we were talking about as the 1 and 2 of the West, these embarrassing losses they matter. That's the point I'm trying to make here. They absolutely matter.
I mean, when it goes both ways.
You need momentum going into the playoffs,
Yeah.
and to get absolutely slapped by these teams.
I think it's going to be exciting NBA playoffs this year. I totally agree. And we'll be talking a lot about that. Throw in your 2 cents. Text, call in 661-842-2000. Who's your team? Who do you got? I know a lot of Laker fans. I know my boy Buddha has been all over it. My buddy Justin just went to a Laker game last week, and I wanted to go to that one because it was the Bulls game. But
Which one? The one where you guys won on a buzzer beater?
Yep, and it was the half court one.
And everybody in LA was cursing a white boy's name of Josh Giddey.
Yes, but
God, I miss him. See, another guy from the Oklahoma City Thunder they should never have gotten rid of.
Yep.
But hey, here we are talking about it.
But just like football, that is the one thing that I can say is it's going to matter what the matchups line up. And, obviously in the East, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of pick your teams. But I think the West is going to be a lot tougher when it comes down to how do the matchups line up and how the play in, like you'd mentioned. I mean, that might be just what you say. Maybe it's whoever comes out of that play in and lines up with Houston or OKC that it's a prove it type
Right.
of series.
And I'm not saying Houston's going to make it far at all. I think they get bounced by the second round too, because they're young and look, they're exciting. It's great to watch.
So going back to the East, who do you got
overall to win the whole dang thing?
Coming out and playing either Cleveland or Boston.
As it sits right now,
I mean the West, my bad.
Out of the West?
Yeah.
If I had to pick somebody, probably the Lakers or the Warriors. Honestly, unless Minnesota can just catch fire. I really like Anthony Edwards, but I think without Karl Anthony Towns on that team, they don't have the same oomph in the playoffs that they did the last couple of years. Denver does not look like the same team, so I can't say they'll make it.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess right now, the 4 teams that I would not be surprised to see in a championship right now would be Cleveland, Boston, Lakers, and the Warriors. Because I don't see the Thunder making it at all. There's just they're not there. And Houston's not there.
I think I feel the same way with Houston.
Minnesota could be there depending on what type of Anthony Edwards we see in this playoffs. If he can just turn it on and become this like otherworldly player that we've all talked about, it could happen, but I don't see that happening. It's not a probable thing to happen, I should say. So if I had to go, it'd be those top 4 teams. It'd be Cleveland and Boston in the East and the Warriors and the Lakers in the West.
Yeah,
those are the only ones that I can see.
I agree with all 4 of them, but I do see OKC depending on how
depending on how it all
brackets
works out.
line up.
You're right. I shouldn't go crazy.
OKC might
like
get
that,
lucky and get some matchups that they favor.
And it honestly, it's a 3 out of 4 possibility. Honestly, they have a 75% chance to make it out of the first round. That is fantastic. And actually, it's way more skewed than that because they're a better team than most of these guys. But my point, I'm still going to stand by it. If you deal with a Warriors somehow, if they slide to 7
or the Lakers,
or the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're in trouble. And honestly, the Clippers don't look bad. They don't look great, but Kawhi Leonard is solid. And if he locks down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, name one player on the Thunder that can lead you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Chet Holmgren. I love Chet. He's a great shooter and a great big man, but he has not stepped up to be the star. It's neither the Williams boys. It's not Lou Dort. So realistically, when you sit there and look at it, and that's the other thing that I have to stress too, young players with one superstar, it is easy to pick them apart.
Yeah.
Much like the Houston Rockets.
Much easier. I think that's Houston's problem right now.
Yeah. Once you separate that superstar, you get rid of your Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and your Jalen Greens. Who's there? Cleveland has a better situation because you take away Donovan Mitchell, you still have Evan Mobley, you still have Jared Allen, you still have Darius Garland. And now you have Hunter off the bench too. Same with Boston. You get rid of Tatum, you still have Jaylen Brown, you still have Porzingis, and you still have the shooting from Pritchard and all those guys.
And there's some great games. I just looked over the last week of basketball. I mean, even throwing in the Bulls and the Cavs will just make my week even better if we could just pull out that win. But keep it tuned in. That's the last segment of the Early Bird Special. We'll preview Monday Night Raw, as well as I think you have some comments on some AEW.
Yeah, I mean, again, AEW Dynasty was last night from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'll give you a rundown of what happened so you don't have to go watch it because, God, man, if you've watched me and Kimball's video of the state of AEW on our YouTube page, go check it out. I am a big fan of wrestling, but what Tony Khan has brewing over there in All Elite Wrestling is questionable. Let's just say that. Let's leave it at that. But I'll tell you all the rest of it on the other side of the break.
Right here at the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I'll do the whole thing if you let me. But unfortunately, I can't because our internet listeners are wondering what the hell is he doing? Dancing. Missionary. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't play the music for you guys on YouTube. Copyright infringement. But this is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick, and that's Sparky. For those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, you can watch a whole video stream of us every single day from 7 to 9 a.m. as this show is playing live or anytime. If you missed the show, you can go back to our YouTube page at the Early Bird Special. Feel free to subscribe, share with your friends. You can watch every episode that we have done on the radio, plus plenty more that we've done on the side. And also go check out our interview with AEW's Anthony Bowens, who made his return to wrestling last night, the pride of pro wrestling. And I say that because he is a very, very proud gay man. We love this guy. He's fantastic. Did a great job yesterday in the pre-show of the AEW Dynasty show, which we'll get to in a second. But first, we have a Raw preview for you, Sparky. They'll be live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Finally back in the States.
We can finally watch it at a regular time.
5 p.m. Pacific time for those of you who like to watch.
I was going down the fight card. I know El Grande.
Yes, El Grande Americano
will be in action. Penta versus Dom.
Did we actually get... I'm sorry, Penta versus Dom is a fantastic match as well. But did we actually get an opponent for El Grande? Because I have a feeling Adam Pearce might pull some double switchery here and put Gable against Mr. Americano, which for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, this entire storyline is being brewed lately of a very popular former Olympic athlete wrestler, Chad Gable, who is a WWE wrestler who has donned a mask of lucha libre and become El Grande Americano as a joke. This is an entire joke pull that they're trying to do here because he's had quite a problem with luchadors, as it were, the last couple months. He hasn't been able to pick up a win against a luchador ever, I don't believe, in his career.
Got some help from Dom.
Yes.
Gave him a contact.
And he made his trek down to the wild lands of Mexico, where he learned the ins and outs of lucha libre from somebody. They still have not revealed who that is yet, although I believe it to be Aleister Black, who is headed towards the WWE once again. We'll get to him in a different date. But outside of that, we're going to hear from Paul Heyman, the great one, as he talks about CM Punk's favor that he offered, that he presented to him on Friday Night SmackDown. Finally, we found out what Punk wants, which essentially is what we thought was what he wanted, which is Paul Heyman not in the corner of Roman Reigns, but in the corner of his best friend CM Punk during this triple threat match at WrestleMania in a couple weeks. We will also have a tag team title match between the War Raiders of Eric and Ivar taking on the New Day of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. And I believe
the EO.
Yes,
Bianca,
that's supposed to get straightened out this weekend or tonight as well.
Which I believe everyone knows that they'll just be fighting in WrestleMania.
Yeah. They're just going to make this a triple threat match finally and announce it for WrestleMania.
And there's supposed to be some Uso confrontation with Gunther.
I mean, what else were we expecting after the bloodbath that was Jimmy Uso's attack last week, or the attack of Jimmy Uso rather,
which was rough to watch.
For those of you who are again wondering what the heck are these doofuses talking about, there's plenty going on in the WWE. Rikishi's sons, Jimmy and Jay, are at the center of a lot of it, along with the Austrian giant known as Gunther,
the Ring General,
who is fantastic as well. All of this can be watched tonight on Netflix, again, live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And honestly, it is great entertainment.
And Bailey versus Val.
Is that going to be happening?
That is the title match tonight.
Well, we'll potentially get something built up for a match for her at WrestleMania as well.
I also believe they're going to start that tag team
tournament. That's right. The knockout tournament to see who is going to be taking on Liv and Raquel as well. You're right. So there's going to be plenty to watch tonight in their 2 to 3 hour event live from Minneapolis. Go check it out with your kids. It'll be live on Netflix starting at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Real quick, with the little time I have left, AEW Dynasty was last night live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That saw the return of our boy Anthony Bowens, as I said earlier, as well as a setup of Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher once again for most likely the Owen Hart Cup happening, and just a slew of disappointing endings to matches again from Tony Khan, who refuses to have production meetings and build stories and actually make these matches fun for some people. I know a lot of people enjoy AEW. I enjoy AEW as it is as a whole, but when it comes down to these big PLE matches, I personally believe the best wrestling that you could get on television is when you have a story that other people are just bought into. And when you take that away from a lot of these storylines, it takes away from the allure of wrestling as a whole. We saw Swerve Strickland and Jon Moxley have a fantastic match last night that was ended with the lights going out for 5 minutes and the return of not even that. Like the Undertaker's is at least quick. Like you get a quick little lights off, 5 seconds, lights back on, and he's in the ring. This was like 5 minutes of blackness for the Young Bucks to come back and knee Swerve in the head for no reason, had no connection to the story whatsoever. And again, it's just solely to keep the guy who had the title with the title, which again, it's wrestling, so not that it matters at all. But it's more just you're not building anything, and that's what really frustrates a lot of fans. So if you are a fan of AEW, if you didn't watch Dynasty, I do recommend going and watching it because there were plenty of matches, including Bandito and Chris Jericho was fantastic. Tony Storm and Miss Bane was fantastic. FTR turning on Edge and sending him out in a stretcher. That was really cool. But when it comes to the big stories, once again, AEW is falling flat on their face and have no idea what the heck they're doing. And that's why all of the people from the WWE that did leave to AEW to go help have since left again and headed back to the WWE to build.
I heard something about that with Jericho too.
Mark Henry is one of them. Jericho is getting really upset about that because he is losing a lot of these guys. It is what it is, man. That's what wrestling's all about. You have to build stories and get people engaged and sell some tickets. But that's all we got for you for today. This is the Early Bird Special. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9. Kimball will be here to talk everything wrestling and run down what happened on tonight's Raw. We'll see you then. Sparky, we're out of here.